So in today's workshop, I'm going to make this video just to remind myself of what I learned at an Indigenous beading workshop. Now, I had a great time at this workshop. If you guys decide to ever look into it, her name, the teacher is Jessica Dumont. And she does give workshops and so forth, and I would highly encourage you to definitely check her out. In terms of the reason for me to have done the beading workshop to start with is basically I wanted to do a beaded poppy for Remembrance Day. In Canada we have Remembrance Day, and I wanted to learn how to do that. I'd seen some YouTube videos, but I thought it would be great to actually go to a workshop and, get the techniques. Now, I showed up at the workshop only to find out that the techniques you need for the beaded poppy are not techniques that I was learning for this particular workshop. So I'd already paid for it. I thought, what the heck, let me try it, right? And we were making a set of earrings, right, just to get some basics down. And oddly, I mean, I'm not a person that wears a lot of jewelry to begin with, and so because I tend to be allergic to metals and things like that, and so I just it's just not my thing. But I do have a lot of friends who do like to wear jewelry, so I thought, as a crafter, you like to do stuff, but you can't keep everything you make. So I thought, well, okay, well, if I like this, I can make some earrings for my friends. And so she basically showed us the techniques on how to do that. I really enjoyed it, actually. I was really, really surprised by it. I found it very calming, oddly enough. Now, I would strongly suggest, if you're over 40, that if you want to do this, any kind of beading, I would really strongly suggest you get some sort of magnifying lens of some sort. I have some crafting lenses that, that have like a magnifying glass on it for the small stuff. Obviously, I did not bring that to the actual workshop, and I kept bringing everything up like really close to my eyes to be able to see, in terms of threading the needle, putting the needle through the bead. Now, my knowledge of beading is very, very limited. As I said, I'm not, I have used beads in the past, but it's for weaving. I've never actually done any actual beading sort of thing, but I may look more, closely into it. And so I've actually got another, one of the Indigenous community centers in my city actually has a get-together every Monday to teach various skills. So I'm thinking I may do that tomorrow and see if I want to, go further into it and maybe take some more classes and things like that. So in terms of the earrings we made, I was very happy with the earrings I made, and I would wear them myself. Not that I wear jewelry very often. And the last thing I need is another hobby, because of course I've got so many hobbies on the go, and of course every hobby costs money, and that's something that you definitely want to consider. What is it that you need in order to get started? Now, it didn't look like we needed a lot to do the earrings that I'm wanting to do. I'm not from I'm going to be using pony beads because the beads that we used were very, very tiny. I don't know a whole lot about beads. I know that I think we used beads that were size 11, which to me are very small. We used, I think, a size 11 needle. And again, I'm not sure if the needles match the bead numbers. I do know that the larger the number for the bead or for the needle, it tends to be the finer, or the smaller the bead or needle happens to be, which is very similar in weaving. So you'd have to get more information on the different types of beads that you'd like to do. And again, I would definitely encourage you to take workshops in your community by whoever happens to give these. But I just wanted to learn how to do the steps, and of course, the steps can be manipulated in many ways to give many different designs. This has just happened to be what I happened to learn, and I just wanted to remember doing it in case I want to do some earrings for my friends. So let me change the camera around and let's get started. Okay, so basically the earrings I ended up making were actually, I don't think you can actually see these here. Okay, I'm going to put a close-up on it, and she had various beads at the workshop to choose from, which was great. So obviously you'd like to go to a bead store. I usually go to my local bead store in order to find various beads for my weaving and so forth. I actually ended up, after this workshop, I went to my local bead store and I got various kinds of, let's get out of the way. Various kinds of colors here. So it's stated that you can have anywhere from 1 to 5 different colors, and so I ended up going back to my workshop, and I already had a crystal kind of style. This one here basically is blue with some like purple. It's kind of like iridescent in a sense. So navy blue with some kind of purple in it. I got a purple kind of bead, and then I got basically a light blue. I decided to go with only 4 colors instead of 5, so I may repeat one of the colors again. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. But depending on what you do, obviously the design is going to be different. I mean, you could do all of one color and follow the same steps. You could do, 2 lines of a particular color and so forth. What I decided to do is I wanted to actually see in large basically what it would actually look like, and from there you can actually determine, with a grid, maybe some grid paper, and then sketch out for yourself what kind of colors you actually want to use. Okay. You obviously need, in this particular workshop, we needed a backing for an earring, so that I picked up for myself. You needed a post, and the kind of post that I ended up getting was basically what she had for us, but I'm sure there's many different ways of doing this. And so basically it was a flat post, so you got the earring back. Basically you're looking at, okay, so you're looking at, basically it's flat. Now the one I got was silver. There's different finishes that you can get. You can get gold finish, rhodium finish, and so forth. But the point is that whatever the metal happens to be, it's going to actually shine through the beads. Okay, so you may want to back it to color this part here with something that it will not show through. So if it's a light color, I picked up some white nail polish, some cheap white nail polish. If it's a dark color, some black nail polish. But again, if you want to be more specific in terms of the kind of beads that you're using, you may want to use different nail polish that you may have. Okay. The other thing you want to have is basically you want to have some nylon thread. So I went to my bead store. I picked up a little bobbin of nylon thread because I'm not planning to sell these. I'm not planning to make a lot of these. I just found it enjoyable as a kind of a relaxing kind of hobby to do. So because of the colors that I picked for the next one are they're fairly some darker colors. It was suggested I go with a darker nylon thread. But again, my bead store had many different colors. I could have pick something much more specific. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is you're going to need a needle. Okay, because I'm using phony beads, I'm going to just use just a darning needle. I'm just using, again, some yarn, some sock yarn that I have left over from our project here. I'm just going to, I hate putting yarn through a needle if I can avoid it. There we go. Okay. And so I'm not very good at calculating how much I would actually need for it. I would rather have more rather than less. Okay, so basically I've just put a whole bunch in, and later on when I need to cut it, I will cut it. Okay, so for this particular one, okay, if you're following the instructions I plan to follow, at least for now, you're going to start off, there's 5 rows. So row 1 is going to have 5 beads, row 2 will have 5 beads, row 3, 4, and 5 will have 10 beads. So I'm just going to go basically in this kind of order right here, okay? And I'm going to follow the instructions that I kind of wrote down haphazardly to try it again, to actually see if I remember what the heck I ended up doing, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to put your 5 beads. You're going to basically put 5 beads on your thread. You don't want to put it all the way to the bottom. You do want to kind of hold on to it close to the bottom, okay? And so basically you're going to, I'm going to put these 5 beads on here. Now I'm not going to be following exactly what she's doing because of course this is not nylon, right? So generally speaking, she ended up cutting things off and cutting the nylon off, and then we basically burned it very minutely with like a flame, from a lighter or something like that. And you don't need to get too close in order to be able to do that. You don't want to, obviously. Now, if your beads are glass and not plastic, that shouldn't be an issue to affect the beads. You just don't want to burn yourself. That's the big thing. Okay. So you've got your first, basically, set of beads right here. Okay. And you have them near the end of what you would have a nylon string. Okay. and it's a single string that you're actually ending up using. Okay, you're going to go back through. So once I've gone through, I'm going to go back through these 5 beads, okay, to kind of lock them in place. All right, so let's go through here. Okay, now the first time I did this and they kind of stayed straight, and I'm like, what the heck? So you're going to kind of have to, you know, manipulate them in a way so that they kind of end up being in a circle. Okay, so you kind of want to do that. Okay, so now they are in a circle. All right. You're going to make a circle with the beads. You're going to cut the string, leave enough of the nylon at the end in order to be able to burn it. So basically, obviously this is not nylon, so I'm not going to be able to do that. But this would actually I would end up cutting it. And if it was nylon, I'd leave just enough here so that when I added a flame to it, it would make a little kind of nubbin, okay? And that would prevent, well, first of all, it would kind of, you know, so you don't see it, but it makes a little nubbin so that the beads are not going to end up going through, so you don't have to make a whole bunch of knots. But in my case, this is not nylon. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, okay? So now let's go on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a little knot here. Okay, pretend that I burned it. Okay. And I didn't do a very good job of that, but whatever. Okay. So then, basically, we're going to start with row 1. Okay. Sorry, this is row 1. Sorry, excuse me. I'm going to go through now to do row 2. So basically, I'm going to go through one of the beads from the circle. Okay. So basically, I'm going to go through. Let's start with, where am I here? I'm through here. Okay, it's coming through here. So I'm gonna turn it around. I'm gonna go through one of the beads in this. Okay, so I'm gonna just do that. All right, and come through. So I can start my second row. And so basically in my second row, what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm gonna take, so my row 2 is gonna be pink. Okay. And then basically I'm going to go through a transparent bead. So I'm going to go through, so I've gone through, not a transparent bead, sorry, my row 1 bead. My original colors were like transparent, teal, what did I have? I had some black, I had some silver, some gray, light gray. So I'm looking, all my instructions are based on the original that I did so that she would give us instructions and I was not good enough to be able to actually remember what the heck I was doing. Okay, so we're going through the first of row 1. I'm going to take the bead from row 2. Okay. All right. And it should sit between two of the beads, okay, from the first row. And then I'm going to go through another bead from row 1. Okay, so I can lock this one in place. Okay. All right, in between the 2 beads there. All right. Give me a sec here. Okay. All right. So I've got basically the pink bead. I've gone through the next bead, which was from the first row. I'm going to go through. I'm going to get another bead, bring it all the way down. Okay. I'm going to try and settle it between the 2 here, and then I'm going to go through the white bead. Okay. All right. I'm going to do the same thing all the way around, basically. Okay. All right, there we go. Then, whoop. All right, then I'm going to go through another white bead from the first row. Okay. All right. And I'm going to take another pink bead. Okay. Going to go through another white bead. Okay. And then I'm going to take my last bead. All right. There we go. All right. And I'm going to go through the last white bead. Okay. All right. So far, okay, it looks a little bit kind of like a star. in a sense, okay? Obviously, when you're dealing with beads that are very, very tiny, they're much closer together. You're not seeing all this space, okay? So now I want to go on, okay, to row 3. So we're going to do the exact same thing again like we did before. We're going to go through a bead from the previous row. So I'm going to go through a bead from row 2, okay? And now I'm going to go on and I'm going to use 10 beads because there's going to be one, basically, 1, 2, hold on, how is it? I'm going to go through the last bead of the previous row. Oh, and this time we're adding 2, okay, per section. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I'm going to take 2 of these so that we can, it ends up making our circle a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. And they're going to lay in between the pink. Then once I've got the red in place, I'm going to go through a pink again from the previous row. Okay, so just like that. All right. And then I'm going to go through the next 2. Oops. Now you'll notice I had a mat. She actually provided us with this mat so that our beads wouldn't go all over the place. Excellent idea, because the beads do roll all over the place. You don't want to lose them, and this kind of helps them stay in place. Okay, so I've got the next 2. All right, so we're just going to do the same thing all the way around. Now, when you're doing a set of earrings, you're going to do this basically this whole process 4 times, okay? So, oops, okay, how did this happen here? There we go. Okay, and the same thing will happen with the smaller beads as well, so you do want to make sure that they're all kind of, you know, in the proper configuration. They're not getting twisted with the nylon and things like that. Okay, there we go. Okay. So then we're going to go through the final pink bead there. Okay. Oh, let me make sure. Okay, this one should not even be there. I'm going to twist these around so that everything's in the proper configuration. Okay. So at the end of the row, you've got basically, okay. Not sure here. The light's picking that up. Okay. All right, so let's go on to row 4. So row 4 is going to be the black beads, okay? This time we're going to do exactly what we did in the previous row, but we're not going to take 2 beads for each one, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through 1 bead of the previous row. So I'm going to go through one of the reds only, okay? All right, and now I'm going to basically be doing 1 black in between all of these, okay, all the way through, and so that will make up my 10. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to do my black, go through the bead of the previous row. Okay, pick up a black, go with the, hold on, where am I here? There, so I need to put it through here. I wonder if you can just do it really quickly. Oh, hey, cool. Just found a little shortcut there. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to go through here, and then I'm going to go through the previous row bead, and then just literally string it together. That works really well. Okay. And now, I would probably suggest even actually like doing, you know, a practice one just with pony beads, because I did find it hard to use really small beads to start with, you know, when you're not used to using them. So if you've got the basic gist with larger beads, pony beads are very cheap. You can buy them in a craft store or whatever. It's not, it's not the end of the world. And then once you got the basic gist, then, you know, maybe actually go with actual beading, okay? Actual beads, I mean. Okay, so then we're going to go through that last red, okay? So that's row 4 basically done, okay? And then basically you've got the 5th row. Okay, so with row 5, basically we're going to go back through a previous bead. So I'm going to go through back through the previous row bead, which is my black in this case, okay? All right, and then we are basically doing the exact same thing, okay? We're going to go through the exact same thing of 1 bead between all of these, okay? And that'll be my final row. So we have finished, okay? So basically to finish this off, because I would have to do 4 of these to do a set of earrings, okay? So what was suggested is that you're going to go through 3 beads, okay? And again, keep in mind your nylon is very thin, your beads are very thin, so you're not going to see this, okay, like you see my orange thing. And then basically you might even want to, you know, if you want to go through another 3, you could potentially do that. Okay, all right, and then basically you would cut it, okay, and then because this was nylon, I would take a little match, I would just, you know, a flame, for example, and I would just touch it briefly, okay, because what happens when I saw with the nylon is that when you brought the flame close, it kind of shriveled up. Right, so even though I had this much, for example, it shriveled up and came, you know, it melted kind of right up to here. So you certainly don't want to hold it there very long. It's just a quick, you know, whoop, and then that's it. Okay, and again, make very sure about your fingers that you do not get burned. Okay, so I would do 4 of them like this. So what I would end up doing basically is, I think, to find out what goes well together, because I have a really hard time with colors and trying to figure that out, and I think that's probably one of the longest parts of the process, is trying to figure out what colors to use where. Is I might use some grid paper, for example, and then kind of sketch this out and then try different colors together and see what I liked, depending, like, you know, do I want, maybe I wanted to have 2 rows of white and then the red and black or something like that, right? So, you know, that's something that you can decide and get more creative on, because it is 5 rows. I mean, it's up to you to decide what order you want colors. You may only want to use 2 colors, or, you know, you want to use 5 colors or something like that. That's up to you, okay? So once this is done, so let's pretend I've done all 4 of these, right? So let us pretend, all right, these are actual beads that are tiny. So we would take our post. In this case here, I have no idea whether I would, you know, paint this white or black, okay? But basically, you would want to have 1 on the front and 1 on the back. And I appreciate that. I don't know if it's, you know, totally necessary to do it that way. But I do appreciate that, because me being allergic to metal, the least amount of metal touching, you know, my skin, the easier it is on my skin. So basically, once I had 1, I would take the first one, okay, and I would, you know, put it on top of the post like this, okay. I would have the other one on the other side. Now, of course, obviously this is way too big, right? So I would have the other one on the other side, okay. And so once you have it on the other side, what you're going to do basically is that you're going to be sewing the 2 layers together, okay? So let me see if I can make, let's see here. I'm going to try and make a second one, and then I'm going to come back, and then we're going to show you how to sew it together, because it's not as stupid proof as I thought it would be. Okay, so I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I've got 2 of them here. Now, ordinarily what you would do is you would cut off obviously the first one. The second one would still have obviously a length of rope of the nylon thread attached to it, so that you could just sew and you're not adding obviously more into it. But I thought what might be easier is to add a different color just to show you where you're actually sewing them together. So remember, here we had the post, okay? So we have the post. So one of them is basically, you know, on the bottom of the post. The other one would sit on top of the post. So basically they're sandwiched together, okay? And so when, sorry, I don't stab myself. Okay, so we've sandwiched them together. As you can see, you've got the blue. Obviously, it would not look like this because you would have continued on from the one before here, okay? And so when you have them, they're going to want to move around. Obviously, you're going to have to hold them together. So you want to basically, you're going to be going through the top, the bottom, the top, the bottom constantly, okay? So I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. And again, you're probably going to have to do them individually, okay? As you... and it's going to move around quite a bit, and of course it's very small, because if you actually look at, you know, the size of what I'm dealing with here as opposed to what you're dealing with. So I've got that, and then I'm going to go down through here, go through the top one, and it will secure it, all right, as you go along. Now, again, I would imagine there's, hold on a second, there is probably a better way. Sorry, not a better way. There's probably a way to do it where you only do one of these and you don't have it on the back. So if you actually look on the back of this here, right? So on the back, I've got the exact same thing here, which I like actually, because I was actually able to wear these earrings, which I was quite surprised by, because usually I can't. Now these ones are stainless steel posts and stuff, but even stainless steel usually still bothers me. I tend to only be able to use like pure gold, which is why I tend to refrain from a lot of jewelry use. As a result of that. So let's go through the bottom. Now it's suggested that you go around that way like 2 or 3 times to make it really, really secure. So that way when you do cut this, again, assuming that this is nylon, you cut a little bit of it, you burn it really quickly, and then you don't have to worry about it coming undone. I've only done it through once just to show you what the process is. But again, it becomes very, very solid, okay? So I would thoroughly encourage you to find a workshop to be able to do something like this for yourself. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, you know, having a teacher there obviously helps to kind of troubleshoot things when things don't go right. But very, very happy with the earrings that I ended up making, and I definitely want to make some others possibly for myself, but more likely for my friends, maybe for Christmas or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it and found it very, very relaxing. So I hope that helps, and have yourself a great day.